Welcome back. The suspect at the center of the investigation into the murders of 4 college students made his first appearance in an Idaho court today. So 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger faces 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of burglary for the November stabbing deaths. Kohberger was arrested Friday, you'll remember, in his home state of Pennsylvania. During today's hearings, Kohberger could be seen at one point smiling at his court-appointed public defender, but did not seem to make eye contact with anyone else. The judge ruling there will be no bail. Some of the victims' families were there, sitting in the front row of the courtroom. Kohberger is due back in court for a status hearing on January 12th. So with him appearing there in court today, we're finally getting some new details and some major bombshells about the investigation from the probable cause affidavit that was released today. So here now to break down some of those highlights, criminal defense attorney Brian Watkins. Brian, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we just went through a lot of the kind of minutia of the court side of things, but I'm really focused right now on that 18-page probable cause affidavit that really details some pretty shocking things that people who have been following this really probably did not see coming. What stood out to you maybe as one of those big surprises today?
One of the big surprises is the finding of the knife sheath. You know, I mean, that's unique that he would leave that behind. Clearly, they got his DNA off that sheath, and that's what, of course, led him, partially what led him to, you know, his arrest.
Absolutely.
The other thing is the testimony of the other roommates. I mean, how she sees him, sees a man in a mask, you know, in black clothing, describes his height. He walks right by her and exits the sliding glass door. So it's really bizarre behavior.
Bizarre behavior because she then did not, or somebody didn't call police until the next day, I believe, closer to the afternoon. I want to read that part here for viewers. So it says a roommate identified as DM heard crying in the house the mornings of the killing, so overnight, we think. At one point, hearing a male voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And then describes that figure clad in black, a mask that covered his face, walking towards her, and then does not injure her. So clearly, I mean, what does that tell you about the 4 roommates who were killed versus the 2 who were left alive in that house?
It doesn't tell us a lot because you got to look at it from both perspectives. I mean, clearly that's bizarre behavior on behalf of the suspect, the person who did this. That's bizarre. That leads me to believe that the people that were killed were targeted, rather than this being something random. But we also have to factor in, that was a party house, and that's what the news has reported it at, and we all understand that. And so people coming in and out, a guy being there late at night, a guy leaving the house late at night may not be that unusual where it would alarm another roommate to call 911. And so they, you know, partying, maybe been drinking, and so I don't know if she hit the panic button. Obviously, she didn't for some reason.
Right.
But she was so scared that she locked the door. But now, was she scared of a murder, or was she scared that there's some other drunk, you know, guy in the house and like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't want him coming in here and let me lock the door? So obviously she felt that way because she did not call 911. But looking back, clearly you would be like, oh, why didn't you call 911? But at the time, with a party house, and someone leaving, going to the glass, you know, sliding glass door, not causing any ruckus, why would you call 911?
A really good point that I have not heard somebody make as of yet, because I think right now everyone's just shocked to hear that maybe somebody had seen the murderer, you know, and didn't immediately call authorities. Let's go back to the DNA that was found on the knife's sheath. We still do not have a murder weapon, but from what I believe I read, that there was just one male-specific genetic material that was on that knife, somebody that obviously was not one of the roommates. Where do you go from here with that kind of evidence? You
know, it's great evidence because now you don't need the knife. I mean, what do we need the knife for? We know the victims were killed by stabbing. That's what a medical examination is going to prove. So we don't need the knife to show that happened. Clearly, it was knife wounds, and we have a knife sheath. Clearly, there was a knife in there, and the person who touched the knife sheath is the same person who's going to have touched the knife. So you don't actually need the knife now. The sheath is just as good. All
right, Brian, let's talk, put yourself in maybe his public defender's position here. Where we're hearing that he is still maintaining his innocence, that he is looking forward to being exonerated. I mean, what does this look like moving forward as far as when he enters a plea and going to trial? How would you maybe approach this if you were defending him?
You know, it's a tough one because you're really going to have 2 defenses here. One, because of the bizarre behavior, could be insanity. But if he's pleading innocence right now, which he hasn't really made a statement, only his parents have, and they don't believe he's involved. And of course, what mother would? okay?
Sure.
And so he hasn't really actually come out and said anything at this point. So we don't know what his position is. So you either have insanity, because that's really bizarre behavior, and if they don't find a motive for these killings, then it's so bizarre that that defense may just work, but it's clear there's some mental issues going on here. What's going to hurt that is his life, other than this incident, is pretty normal. He's in school, he's functioning properly. And so that makes it tough on somebody without a whole history of manic or schizophrenic episodes to say, one day I just went crazy. And we ought to be clear now, there's a difference between being crazy and doing something crazy and stupid. And, you know, everybody in prison did something crazy. That doesn't mean that they're all crazy. So that would be tough. Other than that, if they find a motive for these killings, then his defense is going to be very, very, very tough. But as of right now, it seems very random. So the question is why? Why did this happen?
Well, Bryan, again, as I mentioned to you off camera, I could probably talk about this for the next 2 hours, a case that has really gripped the nation but fascinated so many, and one that I hope we get to talk to you about more, you know, as it moves forward and we start learning more information.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.